Now that the final chapter of Attack on Titan, that is chapter 139, is officially out, we need to talk about this. So hello and welcome to Underwisey. My name is Soham and today we're going to talk about the final chapter of AOT, especially in relation to what exactly happened here and how it is going to affect the entire series as such. But before that, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to the channel since I do weekly anime and manga related content along with a bunch of other stuff. With that being said, let's begin the video. Now, I've already made a separate video talking about the ending. If you are interested in only understanding the ending, then you can watch it here because this video is going to go over the entire chapter as such. Moreover, this is truly the end of an era because after 11 long years, the series has finally come to an end. This is truly the end of an era. Now the chapter begins with the two childhood friends. Of course, this starting was really good in my opinion because Armin and Eren, two childhood buddies who shared the same dream of going to the various places in the world outside the walls. And it is mostly from here where Eren's dream of freedom actually originated, so I think that this was a really nice touch to begin the final chapter of AOT with none other than Armin and Eren. And they are basically having a conversation here as kids. This is most likely the past dimension and Eren is using the powers of the founding titan as such to create an environment for them to talk here. They have a chat about various different things here, from the time when Eren actually kicked Armin in the face to Eren saying sorry about that and how he desperately tried to push all of them away. Basically, Eren was trying to become the big bad villain here so that at the end of the day his friends could kill him and basically become the hero in front of the whole world. This was kind of his plan here, even though he had absolutely no idea what happened here, and he made most of the stuff along the way. This is definitely along the lines of Lelouch v Britannia and the references are pretty obvious here. I'm not saying that this is exactly copying Code Geass because this is a pretty common trope as such, so no problems there. And here the conversation is pretty interesting between these two characters where Armin questions the motives of Eren and how Armin thought that Eren was going to save Paradis just like the Tybur family did after the Great Titan War and stuff like that, but Eren says that he has already killed 80% of the humanity during the rumbling, so the entire world won't be able to go into the battle immediately, and as such that is the major reason why he is leaving behind Armin here, because he knows that Armin is the person who can stop everything. He has immense faith upon Armin and that is pretty evident here. And from there they shift locations and they finally visit the volcano, the river of lava, the river of fire, which they had always wanted to see from the time they were a kid. Now please note here that I have already talked about the character of Eren Yeager in a separate video, you can watch it here. There I have talked about all my problems which appeared because of chapter 139 and how it kind of flipped the character of Eren Yeager for me. I'm not saying that this is inherently bad as such, but I was just kind of disappointed here. And in this video I'm going to talk about some of them, but it is not going to be in-depth. If you want a more in-depth explanation upon all of these things, I would highly recommend you to watch this particular video. But here comes the most, I could say, troublesome part of this chapter, especially in relation to the character of Ymir Fritz. Now even if I overlook the character of Eren and the problems which I think he has after chapter 139, I still cannot defend the decision for Ymir Fritz. This is possibly one of those bad written characters by Isayama who got a lot of hype and a lot of importance throughout the entire series. There was a very big cloud of mystery behind her, but in the end the resolution came pretty weak in my opinion, and basically here it is revealed that for 2000 years the founder Ymir continued to submit to the King Fritz, and that actually led to the Titan powers of the current day. But here Eren reveals that even after obtaining the power that rivaled God, Ymir continued to submit to King Fritz, and she was basically a slave for the king. And even though the king had already killed her father and tore out her tongue, but still she chose to submit to him. All of these things confused Armin because he's saying that why did she do something like that? Why in the world would she choose to do something like that? And in the end Eren reveals that it's hard to believe, but the founder Ymir was actually in love with Karl Fritz. Yeah, that is probably the worst part of the chapter for me. Here we get a flashback to the time of Ymir Fritz when she was still alive, and while she's nursing a child here, the king is flirting with other women, and this is absolutely the worst part of the series for me. I know that the character of King Fritz is to be detested here, but this entire situation is very bad in my opinion. I know a lot of people will say that this is classic Stockholm Syndrome, but even after all of that, it is not executed well in my opinion, because this was very lacklustrous. And this is the basic reason why the coordinate or the path has actually existed, because Ymir Fritz couldn't give up on her love, and as such she was trapped here. She was not able to gain her freedom, and she waited for more than 2000 years for someone to save her, and that person was none other than Mikasa. Basically, Ymir saw herself in Mikasa, and the situation here was pretty similar because Mikasa actually loved Eren, and in the end, Mikasa was the person who was able to take down her love, and as such, she broke the cycle and she finally freed Ymir Fritz from the curse of her love. This is overall a very messy situation, and I don't want to diverge into it much here in this particular video. I have a separate video coming up very soon where I talk about why exactly did Ymir Fritz choose Mikasa in the very first place, so I'm gonna expand upon that particular aspect there itself. But here, Armin and Eren continue to have their conversation about how he killed 80% of the humanity and how he was basically having no idea whatsoever. His thoughts were becoming inconsistent, and the influence of the founding Titans' powers were bringing in past and future memories, and they were all existing in the very same time in the very same plane. That is the reason why Eren was getting delusional, and that is the most important thing at play here. Eren was basically tired and he was not able to take it anymore, and in the end we get that incredibly sad flashback. This is once again one of my most hated parts of this chapter, where we get the reveal that it was Eren himself who kind of manipulated the Titan of Dina Fritz to go and eat his mother. Now yes, granted, he was not actually meaning for his mother to get killed here, but rather he just wanted to save Bertolt because he knew that this was not the time for Bertolt to die, because Bertolt will eventually have to pass on his powers to Armin, and Armin is the key here, and Armin is the person who's going to save everyone as such. But still, this kind of cheapens the scene for me, and this will really reduce the impact of the first episode, the very explosive first episode of Attack on Titan as such, because here many plot holes are raising up as to why exactly did Eren not prevent anything like that from happening, and if he was actually able to control Dina Fritz, then the situation could have turned out much better if he had just done a better planning as such. But no, Eren just went on to kill his very own mother because his childhood self needed that boost of rage for him to act upon his current plan. And here this is kind of a little messed up. I don't really want to believe that this is the best narrative that ECM had brought forward with, but alas, this is the final chapter and we cannot do anything as such. I just hope that the anime adds a couple of scenes here and there to expand upon the thing, to make it more coherent or cohesive as such, but we'll talk about that later on because there is one particular scene which I definitely think that the anime is going to expand upon a little bit, at least a little bit. And also something to note here is that throughout the entire conversation that Eren and Armin have, they are cycling with their looks. They start as kids, they change into teenagers, then they finally have their look from season 3, and lastly, very lastly, Eren is currently in his man bun. That is his current look from the season 4, and they're finally at the sea, they're talking about the sea, and they're talking about Mikasa as such. And here there's a very satisfying punch by Armin when he asks that, how can you do something like that to Mikasa? Do you think that she can simply forget you and live happily with someone else? And to this Eren replies that, I don't know, I just don't know. Eren just doesn't know anything at this particular point. And this basically becomes a breaking point for both Armin as well as Eren. And to this, Eren finally breaks down saying that, no, I don't want that. I want her to only have feelings for me. I don't want to see her with any other guy. I love her, and even after I die, I just want to be with her for a long time. And as such, he's just begging that he doesn't want to die here. I've talked about this particular aspect of Eren and why this really disappointed me in my video upon Eren, so you can watch that here for a better explanation as such. I know that Eren is not actually a genocidal maniac, but this was kind of not really in character in my opinion. I might be wrong here and you might disagree with me here. That's totally fine, but I just didn't like this particular thing as such. I'm fine with the outburst. I'm not saying that an emotional outburst is wrong here because this is the final moment of Eren before his death, so it's fine, and basically because he's talking with his childhood friend, this gets even more emotional as such. Then we have a look at the rumbling and the impact that it left behind, and finally we have some memories from the past, and here we finally get that scene, that particular scene from 2018 which says that you are free. And basically this is Grisha who is holding on to Eren, and this is a memory from the past, not the actual final panel of the series, something that we had initially thought about. And basically Eren says here that, it's time Armin, I will erase your memories of the time that you spent here, and the next time we will meet, we'll be trying to kill each other. When it all ends, you will remember again. Basically it is talking about the memory manipulation techniques or the powers of the founding titan as such. Now here again a very bad dialogue comes from Armin, something which I had not expected at all, and he basically tells Eren that, thank you for turning yourself into a mass murderer for our sake. It's just simply pathetic. But then they basically hug. This was nice because these are two childhood friends after all, and the conversation ends with Eren saying that the one who will save humanity is you, Armin. You are the one who is going to save humanity. This was foretold to us a couple of chapters before, and as such this is pretty interesting in my opinion. Also, just a quick note here, all these conversations that Armin has had with Eren, this actually happened in the past. This is not currently happening after the end of the war. All these conversations actually took place when Armin was on the boat with the other members of the Alliance, and here it is revealed that Eren was having a conversation with everyone via the usage of birds. The bird which Armin was looking forward to on that particular boat was none other than Eren himself. He was basically using these birds to spread his message as such, and this kind of changes the message of the entire series, because from time to time we get to see these birds who are flying in the sky, and that totally changes the narrative, because at the end of the day, all of these things were nothing more than messages which were being sent by Eren via the usage of the Founding Titan. And at that particular moment on the boat, Armin didn't remember anything because that was the clause or condition of Eren, and right after his death, he remembers everything along with every other friends of Eren. Now after this, Armin has a vision of a bird flying away. After all of this bird kind of transitions into the flying titan of Falco, which is kind of burning away as such, and here all the titans are kind of reverting back to the original shape. After all of this, Armin also wakes up in the smoke, and Mikasa comes up to him holding the decapitated head of Eren. Eren is finally dead once and for all, and Mikasa and Armin are left to their personal grief, because it is after all this trio which started it all, and it is ending with them as well. And here Mikasa says that, Armin, your memories have returned to, haven't they? The memories of the day when he came to visit us. And Armin says that, yeah, I heard all about it, the result of the choice that you brought about. Now here, I know that this might get a little confusing, but this is pretty clear that Armin is talking about the choice that Mikasa took, the choice of taking down the person whom she loved. And after all of this, we can see that John, Connie, Gabby and everyone else who was transformed into a titan finally wake up. There's a huge smoke and the hallucigenia has totally vanished out of existence because of the apparent loss of the Founding Titan, but this is still kind of a plot hole as such, because it simply vanishes in chapter 139 without any trace whatsoever. But here basically the powers of the Titan have been wiped away from the world. And here, John, Reiner, Connie, Annie and even Pieck are thinking about the memories that Eren gave them. I think that this particular moment will be a little expanded in the anime as such, but here in the manga all of these things were off-screen as such, and I think that the anime will probably add a couple of scenes in this particular regard, because all of them have had a conversation with Eren, and Eren actually explained to all of them the current situation, the current predicament as such. And he also told Connie that his mother will also be transformed back into a human once again. And Reiner is totally taken aback by all of this, and he says that, Eren, what a man you are, what a man you are. This is the end of Eren Yeager as such, and after his death, the battle of heaven and earth also comes to a stop. Annie goes to meet her father, Reiner goes to meet her mother, Falco goes to meet Gabby, and the most emotional part of this entire chapter, my personal favorite part of this entire chapter, is the interaction that Levi had. Levi basically sees his fallen comrades in the smoke, a one last goodbye by them, and here we can see all the fallen comrades from Erwin to Hanji and everyone else. This is a final Sasageo, a final dedicate your hearts, and Levi says that, you guys were watching all along, isn't it? It seems that this is now the end. The goal that you all dedicated your hearts to, it's finally over, and they all finally dedicate their hearts, and this is a bittersweet moment, but this is such a lovely moment. Now I know that this is technically a fan service, there's no apparent reason why Levi will be able to see all of them, but still I don't care, because this was such a beautiful moment as such, and the moment of Levi doing the dedicate your heart symbol, that was just so damn emotional, beautiful, and it was basically the best part of this chapter. And the same happened with John and Connie as well, because they get to see Sasha for one last time, who is smiling as she smokes away. And after all of this, Mikasa leaves taking the head of Eren, because she says that she can't give him a proper burial here, and as such, she's probably taking her back to Shiganshima once and for all. Moreover, even though the war is finally over, the conflict is not over yet, and as such we can see that Marleyan forces are still trying to take down Eldia, and even though they are kind of hesitant, they are still aiming their guns at them. And to this, Annie's father finally says that, please listen Chief Mueller, Eren Yeager is finally dead, the power of the Titans have also been eliminated from this world, we are just regular human beings now. And Mueller also does not want to take any harsh steps here, but he is simply saying that, can you prove it? Can you prove it right here, right now, so that I can put down these guns? And to this, Armin finally comes up, he removes his ODM gears, and he says that, this is actually the truth, the powers of the Titans have been eradicated as such, and the proof to all of that is that we are finally humans now, none of them actually have the powers of the Titans anymore. To this, Mueller asks that, who are you? And finally Armin replies that, I am Armin Arlet, an Eldian of the Paradise Island, and I am the one who killed the attack titan Eren Yeager as such. And after this, we finally get the 3-year time skip. We can see here Historia, who is holding on to her baby, she is celebrating her birthday and she is holding on to her baby, and behind her is a man who is walking up to them, Possibly this is the Farmakun, the father of the child. And here basically after 3 years, the people who have faced tremendous loss in their life still survived and are still suffering from the scars of that war, and it is not going to heal as such. And that is the reason why the Jaegerists have formed kind of a dictatorialship regime. They have made a huge Eldian army as such in the fear of retaliation from the remnants of the humans who survived on the other side of the ocean. The people of the island raise their voices in unison, and they are all agreeing with the Jaegerists, and they are all chanting the words of Eren Yeager as such. If we win, we live. If we lose, we die. If we don't fight, we can't win. Fight, fight, tatakae, tatakae. And this is also very fitting for the Jaegerists as well. We can see a couple of other people here in this crowd as well, from Reiner's family to Nicolo and the parents of Sasha as well. And finally we can see Historia in the docks, and behind her are possibly the top officials currently of Paradise, and in this particular crowd we can also see Kiyomi here as well. And basically after all of this we finally get to see the ship which is carrying all the members for the peace conference as such, from Armin to Reiner to Peak to Connie to John and Annie as well. They are having a fun conversation here. Initially when I saw the leaks, I thought that this was going to be the worst part of the chapter, but surprisingly enough this was such a great part, because this is kind of giving reference to Reiner's initial crush upon Historia, because he's saying that this handwriting is so good, yada yada yada. I've already covered all these things in my ending explained video, so here in brief you just need to know that these people are heading forward towards a peace negotiation led by Armin nonetheless. And Armin is going to be the person who is possibly going to change the entire world. He is going to plead for their sake, and he says that conflict between people will never end as such, but if they see all of them together like this, everyone would surely like to know what exactly happened at that time, what exactly did they experience. But Historia is not so optimistic here at this moment, even though technically she is not a Jaegerist, but she is talking like a Jaegerist as such, because she says that Eldia or the world, either of them will have to extinguish in order for them to survive peacefully. As such, the themes of war and the cycle of hatred have not been lifted from the series, because these are very huge topics, but my only disappointment here as such is that the philosophy of brainwashing has not been acknowledged in the final chapter of Attack on Titan. This is something which I wanted to see, but alas, we are never going to see it as such. And finally, because this is a time skip, we get to see adult Gabby and Falco along with Captain Levi as well. Levi is currently in a wheelchair and he is not able to see from his right eye, but I'm really happy to see these people alive, especially Falco and Levi. I don't care much about Gaby, but Falco and Levi, seeing them alive and happy, this is the only thing which I wanted to see as such. And also this doesn't really look like Marley or even Eldia for that matter. Maybe this is the country of Onia Capone as such. And finally we get some panels from the ship as well. These are really beautiful. John is looking handsome as hell, and Armin is also looking very nice. This is kind of like a Naruto moment as such, but hey, Naruto is not the only series which had something like that. Sure, they were the trope namer for the talk no jutsu as such, but this is a pretty common trope because the war is finally over, even though it is not totally over, but still they are hoping for their best. And the series ends with Mikasa, who is currently at Shiganshima, and she is beside a small grave. Mikasa is kind of sad and her scarf kind of falls away from her shoulder, but to this, a bird flies out of nowhere and it wraps around the scarf on her shoulder once again. And this bird is actually none other than Eren, of course. It's pretty symbolic because birds represent freedom. This is a very common concept for the series of Attack on Titan, and here in the end, Mikasa says that, "Thank you, Eren. Thank you for wrapping this scarf around me. Thank you so much, Eren." Now this is one interpretation that the series might have. This is possibly the good interpretation which Isayama intended, but after reading chapter 139, I can have one more interpretation that this is just Eren not wanting Mikasa to leave her behind. He always wants Mikasa to remember her as such, and this is maybe not giving her freedom as such. There can be a number of different interpretations to all of this, so I guess it's fine in my opinion. And that is the ending of Attack on Titan. Also, please note that it is not something like I dislike or hate this particular chapter. It's simply that there are certain elements of this chapter which I did not like that much. A couple of them, not a lot, just a couple of them. But overall for me, this was a solid 3 out of 5 chapter. It's not the best, it's certainly not the best. There have been many chapters from Isayama which have been absolutely top notch, and I don't think that this chapter can be taken into that particular league as such. But overall, this was a decent ending for the series of Attack on Titan. I'm not as disappointed as a lot of people are saying that, oh, maybe this is as bad as GOT. It's not that, it's not something like that. It's simply that there are a couple of scenes, a couple of moments here and there of this chapter which I just did not like as such. Just that's it. Otherwise, this is a solid 3 out of 5 chapter for me personally. I am so happy that I finally got to watch this masterpiece of a series. So I just want to say thank you Hajime Isayama for providing us with the masterpiece called Attack on Titan. So what do you guys think about all of these things? Please do let me know in the comment section below. So that's it for today guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel for more. This is Wonder by Z, and I'll see you soon in the next video.